All right, so today we're going to take a real quick look at the grouping and alignment tools in Gravit and other design programs, just to give you a basic idea of how we use them and what they're for. So we're going to start off with a couple of simple things. The first one is I'm just going to make myself a circle, okay? And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make myself another smaller circle. So the point here, and I'm going to make these different colors just so they're easy to tell apart. Okay, so when we talk about alignments, we're talking about how things are positioned on the page. So I'm going to grab my green circle and I'm going to come over here to the upper right on this top bar. And you notice we've got a few different things. We've got two things that are faded out, which we'll look at in just a second. And then we've got 6 bars. So align left lets you align your object based on its bounding box to the left portion of the screen. We've also got center, align right, align top, middle, and bottom. Those are pretty straightforward. So, obviously you can use these in conjunction with each other. So if I align it center in the middle and then align it center horizontally, I get something that's dead center in the center of my page or artboard. Okay. If you select multiple things, you can also group them together and align them to each other. So obviously right there, I did not align them to the center of the artboard, even though I clicked align center and align middle. Okay, so that's when we have multiple things selected. We're allowed to sort of work them together, and you can sort of shift things around. Maybe I want to align these down here in the center, or I need them like this, like that. It allows you to move things around based on their bounding boxes. Now, one of the other things that's really nice is that you can then group things. So for example, if I double center them and then I go ahead and go modify and group that selection, now when I move it around, they move together automatically, and then I can align that circle with something else and it will align both of them together. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to ungroup those because I want two different shapes. So I want to look at these two objects. If I select them both, and I can come up here, these are still not available. So the question becomes, why not? And we have to look at how our process is going. So when you look at this and why isn't it working when we have just two objects? Well, the reason is that these are asking you to distribute something horizontally. And with only two objects, it doesn't know how you're trying to space them. So let's add another object. In fact, let's add 2 more. And let's just look at 3 red dots for the moment. So I have these 3 red dots and I've just positioned them on the screen. I'm going to grab all 3 of them and I'm going to first align them horizontally. So they're all in the same row. So the first one we have is distribute horizontally. And if I click that, you notice it shifted one of them to sort of the middle. And what it's doing is it's taking the center points of each of these objects and positioning them evenly spaced in between the outer 2 objects. So if I grab this one, move it all the way over here, select them all, and distribute again, this one moves to the center. And what's really nice is that this does not have to mean that the objects are in the same row. You can, in fact, distribute horizontally, even if they're in opposite rows. The second one, distribute vertically, does the same thing, except in the vertical path. And that's with multiples of the same size object. If we grab our giant green circle, and we do the same thing, select them all, distribute, you notice this one shifted slightly to the right because it's trying to balance it based on the center points of the objects. The center point of this circle is right here, so it's trying to distribute them that way as well. Same here. Okay, so this is what you just want to look at is when you distribute, it's having to spread it out across your selection. So your selection is what's going to matter. Now this is really useful. Let's say I've got a series of lines here. Now what I've done is I just pasted a whole bunch of these lines. I'm going to grab just one of them, drag it all the way over here. And now if I select both of these, distribute horizontal, it just laid them all out perfectly evenly spaced. So I could, for example, then take a line again, draw it all the way across, copy, paste, 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 grab one of them to drag down there, select all of those horizontal lines, not the verticals, do the same thing with the distribute horizontal, and hey, I've made myself a perfectly even grid. So the alignment tools are really useful. I'm going to group this with Control G. So I've got now one group. And now I can take that and, for example, center it on my board, or maybe I want it at the top or the bottom. But it gives you, again, a different way to mix things together and sort of lock them and move them around. And this is really kind of neat when you're trying to overlap things. So let's say we take a polygon. We're just going to take a basic hexagon right there, and we color it red. And we want to color maybe just half of it a different color. So what if we were to, for example, say copy and paste this again? So we've copied and pasted, we have a second one, and I just want to color something the half. So I need to cover half of it somehow. So I'm going to grab this. I'm going to come up here. I'm going to grab my knife tool, which is not something we've talked about yet, but it's a really nice tool. And I'm going to real quick just slice this one in half. Whoops. I have the wrong selection tool. Grab my pointer tool so I can grab that. I'm going to get rid of that. And let's say I need this to be, we'll go with a purpley blue. And so if I were to come up here and try and line them up, yeah, I can do that by hand if I want to, but I could also just highlight them both, center them, and align them by top. And it automatically does that for me. So now my bottom shape is all covered. I can just go ahead and group these together. And suddenly I have my half blue, half red hexagon that I can spin and dance with and do whatever I need to. So the alignment tools are really good for making things stack perfectly if you've got sort of the same curves or edges and you just want to cover up parts of them so that they don't have anything from the backside showing. But that's the real quick basics of the alignment tools and how to use them in Gravit.